Good afternoon. Today is April the 26th. Just get this link going here and drop this in Discord. Share. Pull this up. Alright. Wagwan, brother. Wagwan. I hope everybody had a good weekend. Inshallah, headset does not fucking nuke. No, I got unplugged. I was dealing with. I couldn't get on the internet for like 4 hours, and I realized my VPN was blocking it in some way, shape, or form. So I just uninstalled it altogether. And now we're here. So, I don't know, I'm a bit of a fucking idiot, but it's sorted now. So, what's up? What's up? What's up? All right, so do a little recap on on Bitcoin. What happened last week and what I'm looking at going into the week. We'll look at composite structure, profiles, VWAP, all that kind of stuff. What was weekly open? I'm so bad with this. Sunday. Sunday. Here. All right, so where was weekly open? Hold up. I'm losing it. Okay, so down at the low here, right? Okay. So ultimately, last week, going into the week, I figured we had this older 4-day composite traded up to more or less the point of control. That's what this gray box is the older composite back from February. Ultimately, we traded into it, capped up here. Yeah, I know this is huge. Capped up here, ultimately underside a retest, and we traded down, shifted back inside of this older 3-day composite, ultimately got a breakout. And then we traded up, saw an impulsive move back inside of that 4-day composite. So on that basis, you expect a full move through value, which is what happened. Ultimately capping up there was a big spot offer, came in around this level. We shifted back inside, it took a short here, and then we started to break down and ultimately build out a few days of balance here. Another undersided retest of that 4-day point of control. I think I shorted that, and then we had a pretty aggressive flush in positioning down into the single print and what was weekly VWAP, and then ultimately we just remained rotational here. So, I mean, really, um, the question just comes down to what's going to be the next subsequent shift against value. So, right, if we spend time and space above here, is this going to be the breakout of this 4-day composite going into the week and we trade up from there? Conversely, being that we topped here and we're still building out balance, as much as I think this is a good low, right? I think if we flush down into previous week value high, monthly value high, 3-day composite value high, anywhere around here, right? That's just the market's just rotational at that point, right? Within this older 4-day composite. So that's really how I'm treating this at this point. There is quite a few trade setups going forward, and I'll get into those in a little bit. Let me just look at VWAP here, and we'll get started with that. So ultimately, I'll just start with yearly. So yearly and previous quarter about the exact same value, right? This is back in February, March, so we're just rotating the lower half of developing year value. So, oh, it's not what I want. Right, so developing your val support, yearly VWAP's resistance, right? Every time we reach those areas, it just, we saw reversion back to the other side. Upon, I think, 2 weeks ago, we actually put time and space in above VWAP, basically retested it. So, on that basis, right now that, we had a sort of cap downside at yearly VWAP, that opens the door for the full move through yearly value up towards 84. And I think we will get that should we break out of the current composite that we're in, being this 4-day. So if we get above 79 and truly constitute acceptance above here, I think it's the full move through value probably. Previous quarter is the same as yearly, so no point in looking at that. And developing quarter is the same as monthly until we have May start. So I'm just going to skip over to monthly. We are definitely bullish against monthly value, right? So you have monthly VWAP, which is here, monthly value area high. So one standard deviation above monthly VWAP is value area high. So it's the same thing with the profile, but nonetheless, it's rejecting value. The only issue with it being so overextended from value right now is just that, right, it's nice to see more of a flush into that level and a rejection, right, then the condition has definitely not changed, and that's a confirmation of that, being that we're bullish here. So either want to see that, or you'd want to see a shift inside of value, right? So um, the simple fact is, right, we're pretty overextended for monthly value, are bullish against it, but it's not going to be something I'm leaning too heavily on, just on the simple fact that we're not that close to it until we come back and retest it again. It doesn't mean that much to me at the moment. Weekly value is going to be more important, so that's what this pain is here. Right. So ultimately we capped at, what was it, 79, which was last week's high, right? So we shifted back inside of developing week value. And similarly to what I showed you with yearly value a minute or two ago, we're rotational in the upper half of developing week value, right? So we're capping at VWAP and we're capping at value area high, right? So again, you just expect more of the same. So we're going to be rotational here until proven otherwise. And that's really it. So this will be previous week value come a few hours from now. So again, if you see a breakout from here, that would be a bullish shift against yearly value, right? Should we lose VWAP, that opens the door to where this overlap is between what is currently previous week value area high and developing week val. So this is going to be the next area that's going to be support based on value. So really, this would be neutral bullish, if anything, I would say, being that we're unable to actually move through, so you traverse weekly value down to where there's overlap between these two levels, like I said, but ultimately it's still rotational here. So I would call this kind of neutral bullish based on yearly value. So now I'm going to just go back to composite structure. That's basically VWAP right now, and what I'm looking at here. So we look at profiles now. So ultimately, there's a lot to work with going forward. That's like what all the kind of scenarios here. Neutral bullish, yeah, exactly. That's right. So like I said, we traverse through this older 4-day composite, right? We put in a really good low here upon that flush into the single print, and we're just building out value, right? So fade the extremes till proven otherwise. There's a lot to work with, so I'm just going to talk about some scenarios here and what I think could happen going into this week. So I think that rotational here, I mean, on a simple basis, I would say that, let me just look. Honestly, whoops, say we do stay rotational here. This isn't really anything going into the week and days from here, but I mean, we have a really nice imbalance left behind here. If we do remain rotational inside of what's going to be a 5-day composite, what's currently 4, should we flush into this level, I would again just take another rotation back to the side on the simple fact that the condition stays the same here until proven otherwise, right? So we continue to range here until it really constitutes acceptance above or below, right? So very important rule to follow. That's that. So if we look at this, I guess I should probably put a profile on the screen so you actually know what I'm looking at here. So this is going to be 5-day composite if today closes inside. It's currently 4, so if I just reset this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 days of overlapping value, right? So this profile overlaps this one by 50% or more. That means you'd merge it, right? This day overlaps 100% on this day, so that's now a 3-day composite. I get asked this a lot in Discord, especially in the free section, if this range is valid or anything like that. This is the simple way you do with TPL. This is literally it. The following day here, as much as nothing really happened here, value area of this one overlaps value area of this one 100%. So I'm saying that this is obviously inside of this, right? 100% of this is inside of this. That means you merge it. So 50% or more of this value area overlaps in here. You'd merge it. This is 100%. So you'd merge it. As today currently sits, it's also 100% inside, so you'd merge it, but today's still developing, so I just haven't bothered, but nonetheless, it's really just there, I guess. So that's my 4-day composite value area high, 4-day composite value area low. So that's that. Just figured I would show that. But there is a lot to work with here, so let me show you here all of the references I'm looking at going forward. So current 4-day could be 5 days. Should we continue to trade inside of value here? There's also a 3-day composite here. So again, same thing, 1, 2, 3 days. Which there really is a lot to work with and a lot of overlap here going into this week. So there should be a lot of opportunity, I think. And then there's a 3-day here. Right, so 3-day value, 3-day value, 4-day value, as well as this older 4-day value. What would acceptance above or below level? What would be acceptance above or below? Here to look at order flow. I would say more often than not, you want to see fresh positions supporting the move. So let's say we saw something like this. It's not so much order flow intensive, right? Certainly you can look at spot participation. Is there passive bids behind the move? If this is on a shorter term basis, that doesn't really matter as much. But um, based on order flow, like a aggressive order flow, for example, right? So you get something like this, you want to see new longs supporting this move more often than not just shorts being forced out of their positions would be ideal acceptance based on order flow. You want to see buying behind the move. That's probably the answer to that question. So, like I said, going into this week, I think that being that we are still rotational in value and we have capped here, um, the point of control of this gray box, this older 4-day composite, is it's very high in the distribution. So I think that the simple fact is, if you stay rotational or you accept into value, you expect moves to the either side of value, right? That's how we've been getting here and here and here, right? So on that basis, and being that we already broke well through the point of control, you'd expect the full move through value. Of course, that doesn't have to happen, especially with a strong low put in here. But I think that, let's say this is the top here, right? We build out some balance here, and we get a retest into the same value area high region again. So it's a larger rounded retest, and we cap here. I think that absolutely points the door that we have to now go here, right? And that gets confirmed if we get a shift back into this 4-day profile, and that's also opportunity there. That's the bearish scenario right now. Of course, to me, it looks like we might break out here, but nonetheless, if we remain rotational here, like I said, fade the extremes. If we get a breakdown from here, I already have shorts open, so I don't really care. There's a lot of support here, so I probably wouldn't take the short. But nonetheless, that's what I'm seeing. Should we trade lower based on this current range? I would say the 4-day val, previous week value, or high, weekly val. This is going to be the line in the sand. So if you look at it from kind of an AMT lens perspective, which is how I read everything, this would be the full move through the 4 days of balance, right? We're now back inside of monthly value, previous week value, and this 3-day value. So let's say we see this, okay? That means you've seen a bearish shift against monthly value, previous week value. You're breaking down from the 4-day profile, and you're accepting back inside of the 3-day profile. The volume profile on the right. This is a visible range profile. So it moves with whatever I'm looking at on the chart. So it'll change here in a sec. You'll see. I just use this to see where there's high volume nodes, low volume nodes, gaps, stuff like that. I don't base trades off of this ever. And I also don't look at the value area of this. I couldn't care less. I don't base trades off of that at all. So that's what I'm seeing here, right? This is absolutely the line in the sand. So if we see acceptance below here, right? Monthly value, monthly VWAP, previous week value. So if we get the full move through previous week value, that points to here, right? Which is kind of confluent with this older 6-day composite high, previous month value high, and monthly VWAP. So that's the mean reversion of monthly VWAP. So that's a confluent move. Should we break down? Obviously, that could be overshot into previous month value high. This 6-day high, these lows here could be taken out, right? This imbalance. So that's a good downside target. And these poor lows back at this much older 9-week profile also make a lot of sense. So should we truly break down and see the full move through monthly value, that points to here. Take these out. That's if we truly break down. Now, should we trade up? I think that there's a couple longs to be had. There was a lot throughout the range here. This was a really good one. There was one here. I mean, of course, I'm saying this in hindsight, but I took quite a few of these. But nonetheless, should we get a break? Of course, there is resistance up here. So this is the older 4-day point of control here. There's a naked point of control here. So I think it's from Tuesday. If I reset this, should be able to see it. Yeah, so there's is that Wednesday? Yeah, sorry. Wednesday's point of control, naked point of control is here. So the volume one, this is a TPO, so not volume profile. So volume profiles is a little bit higher. So that's the one I actually have marked. So like I said, I think should there be a decent confirmation, this technically against the trend at this point, just on the simple fact that, if we get a breakout here, that may also be a long. So if we do get that, the condition to me would now be bullish, at least shorter term and based off of recency. So this would be a counter trend short. But ultimately, if this is where it caps and it's a larger rounded retest, that to me absolutely points to the fact that we're going to move through value. Conversely, if we get this and trade higher and we're able to break through weekly value, 4-day point of control, the 4-day value area high and that naked point of control, which I have marked, and we get something like this, acceptance above this level, which we already, I guess we really didn't, we just deviated a bit and then ultimately capped here. Anti-inbound, that's right. And then ultimately we cap there. I think that opens the door for the full move through yearly value, like I mentioned here. So up towards 84, 85K, when you get into previous quarter value high, sorry. This naked quarterly yearly value high, all this overlaps. So anywhere from 84 to 87, 88 kind of level. Should we get that? And again, this just comes down to the reaction, what I'm seeing based on acceptance, order flow, that kind of thing. So it's not a guessing game. That's not how I trade. Should I try and catch something counter trend or with aggression, let's say it flushes into a level, I'm definitely looking at order flow and positioning, especially open interest and delta. So, for example, if we spike into this area here and trap buyers up here, open interest ramps up, that would be a trigger for me, and I'm likely to go short here. Whether you trade off of the turn and momentum here and your stop goes above the high or you put it above the swing, I would say either are wrong. And then I would be targeting the full move back through value. Of course, if it does this and then caps here, right, that may be a larger rounded retest of this level and you might want to get out of the trade. And then the same thing could happen this way. So there's quite a few scenarios here. I'll recap these now a little bit and kind of draw them out, and then I'll probably do a write-up and see if there's any questions anybody has. A couple of anomalies worth noting as well. Like I said, naked point of control up here. There's also a naked point of control here. So I think the possibility that maybe we overshoot this, tag the point of control, and then reclaim, similarly to if we just flushed into this level. Again, we'll just have to see what happens if it does break down, but that to me is also a long. Of course, at that point, you could also just see acceptance here and we break down. So it's going to be a reactionary thing for sure. For me. So going into this week, based off of current condition and what we're seeing right now, like it looks like we might break out here. If we do fail, which it kind of looks like we're just going to trade up. If we do remain rotational here somehow, I think if we cap here, right, if we trade all the way back up to value area high, then I don't want this trade. But if we cap kind of right around here and basically stay in value, I think a flush into here is good. But I'm not going to keep that on there because I don't really think it's going to stop here. It kind of looks like it's going to trade up, but nonetheless, should we get a good spike into the naked point of control, I'll be looking for a short there, targeting the full move through value, which will be confirmed by a shift back inside of the 4-day. So should we accept back inside of here? That's another way to position. So both of those. And then I'll be looking for a flush into this level. So should we flush here? I'll be looking for a long. Should we break below here and show acceptance? I'll be looking for a short with the targets, like I mentioned before. So anywhere down here makes sense. Monthly view up, previous week val, as well as these lows. Much larger swing. So that's my thoughts there. Conversely, should we prove acceptance above this level? That's absolutely going to be a swing along trying to target older 8-week composite val, 2024 value area high, which is this level. So 2024 VWAP value area high at 82.5, give or take. Is that right? The number's off. Okay, it is. It's just the axis is like that. Okay, so that's my first near-term target. And then, like I said, the full move through yearly value up to here towards 84, 85, which is also an older 8-week point of control. Anybody have any questions on that? So near-term right now, I think it's possible we do breakouts. So there's also a long here, I think, potentially. Upon a break from this level, if we do retest this, it's probably a long. And it'll just be something you have to manage, so. Right, so time and space above this level, we retest this, right, that's probably a long. So whether that is a breakout and we trade higher, or if we ultimately cap here and then trade down, is just something you'd have to gauge. But this is the first time we've started to pop above. So to me, I wouldn't be so aggressive to get into this yet, but it just depends. So attempting to kind of go bullish against daily VWAP here, right? So like I've talked about before, this is just rotational. So rotational in the upper half, really. So capping at VWAP ultimately, capping at value area high as well as VWAP. And then this is the first kind of attempt to break out. So we got an impulsive move up here. Value area high held as now support, right? Support. So now if you get kind of another revolution, another rotation put in and it holds, then you're ultimately bullish against this value now. Anybody have any questions on that? So it really just depends what we do here, but there's quite a few scenarios here. I don't think I have any longs open anymore. I don't believe. I still have a short from the high, maybe 2 shorts. I can't remember. I'll have to look, but ultimately that's what I think, and that 78.3, 78.2 should hold here if it's going to trade up at all. And ultimately it's also a weekly value area high. So if we look here, like I said, based on VWAP, we've capped here multiple times. So should we cap here again, then probably points to price staying rotational here in the upper half of weekly value, which is also rotational in this 4-day composite. So a lot to work with here for sure. Really good targets. I think this week should be really good, personally. Just have to monitor things and see how it goes. I think there's also a world where this can get swept again. There's a larger failed auction made if a really big passive offer steps in. We get something like this, but that's totally an anticipatory thing, so I couldn't just say that's going to happen. But it's hard to say. Anybody has any questions, you can fire them away. I don't really have much else to say. I don't think I need to drag this call on too long. It's been about 20 minutes. The shorter the better. I'm looking at gold here as well, which kind of looks like shit. I don't really want to trade this. Ultimately, if this is going to trade back into value here and be bullish, this should hold. So that's what I would say. And I was looking for shorts around here to take out these kind of highs initially to get something like this, but it just hasn't come yet. So Bitcoin was much better to trade last week, in my opinion, than this. I do trade gold and alts and stuff as well, but I try and just keep these, at least the weekly updates, just focused to Bitcoin, personally. So that's that. So ultimately, I think I'll wrap this one up now. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend and you have a good trading week ahead. And yeah, I'll probably do a write-up for everybody in the Discord. I do them every day in Premium. So if you're not a member of Premium and it does interest you, I do these every single morning. I do a full write-up with my hypos, my lines in the sand going forward, send all my trade setups, trade management, all that kind of stuff. So ultimately, you've never been in a better server than Orochi doing what we're doing. So if that does interest you, now's the time to definitely get in on that. That's all I'm gonna say. With a restructuring that's coming soon. So I don't know where my drawings went. I mean, here's some of the positions we took at the end of the week last week. So there's more too. I just don't know where they are. Long there. I think I had another long somewhere. Yeah, I mean, that was just in a day or two. So he gave free money. See, he gets it. He gets it. So, all right, guys. Any questions? Anything you need from me? Just let me know. And yeah, have a good trading week. Cheers.